Hello. Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. Hopefully you're in the right room for Hustle and Flow, Real Talk on Making It. And I'm not going to read this at you, but this is the panel description. And just basically want to talk about the illusion of making it an overnight success, because a lot of people seem to think that when you find someone, you quote unquote discover them on the internet when there's a new hot thing, that they just happen into that overnight. That is so not the truth. So we're going to talk about that and in some ways talk about where we are, ways of being seen as making it. But before we do that, and also please note the trigger warning, because in the course of where we are, some of us may talk about things that have happened. Excuse me. So if things are triggering or upsetting, please feel free to take a moment, walk out, come back, do what you need to do. Oh, and I'm a pro panelist. I just went backward. All right, I will go last. So starting at the end, Triel, please introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Triel. Okay, there it goes. I'm Triel. I am a creative streamer. Also, as you see up there, I'm a gender fluid individual. I basically do lots of foam smithing, armor making, costume stuff on Twitch.
My name's Misty. Everywhere online, Imperial Girl. I am a Twitch partner broadcaster. I almost just started reading it. I've been playing games as long as I can remember. I'm a seamstress. I make a lot of things. Nothing I'm wearing.
Tauntaun sleeping bag.
Tauntaun sleeping bag.
What was that? Tauntaun sleeping bag? What was
Tauntaun
that?
sleeping bag.
Forever,
Tauntaun
you guys
sleeping
know,
bag.
for
We're
the
just
grief
gonna, yeah.
for it. Yes, but yeah, that's it.
Brian.
I am Brian. I'm Urban Bohemian on Twitch and everywhere else on the internet. Twitch is probably the newest creative thing I've done online. So most of my stuff has been more about blogging and photography and food and things like that.
And my name's Tanya. I am also known everywhere as Cypher I started the hashtag and now a nonprofit of I Need Diverse Games because I was mad about video games at 6 in the morning. Oh God, now 5 years this year in October. And well, thank you. I stream, I do a lot of things. I'm actually art officially because I'm in a video game exhibit at the V&A in London. I do a lot of stuff and I yell about diversity in games. And the one last thing, because I forgot my usual housekeeping slide, is when we get to Q&A, have a question. It's on the thank you slide, but this is not church. We're not having call and response. Do not yell from the audience, because I find it A, incredibly rude to the people on this panel, B, to the people in the audience, and if you want to be on a panel, you had a chance to submit it just like we did. It's also my last panel of MAGFest, so I'm clearly out of fucks to give.
That person knows what's like.
All right, so I'm gonna start by kind of calling out my panelists, because over the course of this, they have all asked me, why did you ask me to be on this panel? And I was like, because you're smart and successful, and you're also people that I enjoy paneling with. So I'm going to pick on Misty first, because she asked me this literally before the panel, and I like how she's not looking at me either.
I'm reading.
I'll make it a comfortable.
But, so I want to talk about what does being successful mean, but Misty is someone that is a seamstress, is very savvy in business, does great on Twitch, and is just a wonderful, positive person. And I look up to that because I am not a wonderful, positive person. I am a grumpy asshole, just so you know. But Misty is someone I wanted to be on this panel because you've done so much. And I wanted to talk about, for you, what does success mean? And then if you want to talk about it, imposter syndrome, because I'm like, you just literally asked me why you're on this panel, so I feel like that's kind of creeping in.
That's a loaded question.
I know.
What does success mean? So I can put it in real terms. Success means no sleep. It means eating at your desk. It means never believing you are successful because you're working so hard to get to a different level. It means comparing yourself to other people even though you try not to. It means it's rough sometimes, and I'm not saying it's not worth it. It's totally worth it. I enjoy what I do. I love being a Twitch streamer as a part-time job. It's something I always call it the dream job I never knew I wanted, but it's I tell people who, especially specifically Twitch partnership, if that's what a goal is of yours, to be prepared to work super hard. If I don't put in as much, almost as many hours offline, sometimes more, that I do online, I'm not doing, I can see the difference in quality, in reach, in metrics, in like to talk about it just from like a numbers point of view, you can equate how much you put into the stream time-wise versus how much you grow. Plain and simple.
Yay. Brian, you also asked me why you're on this panel. And because you're an awesome blogger, you talk about food, you talk about a lot of things, and you know, like, not for nothing, you have a name in the DC food scene. So in terms of that success, what is it you think that meant? Because to me, you are successful. You do a lot of cool things.
It's, just to echo Misty, it's exhausting, a lot of it. And I didn't really have like a path to success for any of the creative endeavors. It was more like, you know, oh, this thing is happening on the internet. That looks like a fun thing to do. Let's try that and see how it is. And blogging turned into a big thing. Photography turned into a thing. When the foodie scene happened, then it was easy. I mean, it was what we were already doing. You're going to restaurants and just taking pictures of your food, and people mock that. And then all of a sudden, everyone's like, no, wait, this thing is actually kind of cool. And can we buy your photograph? And would you like to do these things? So it's been like a wild ride to just realize, oh, these things that I really enjoy doing have another level above them beyond like a hobby. And then it does right into that place of work. And, you know, like how much do you want to put into it? What do you want to get out of it? And make sure you're still doing it where you enjoy it. Otherwise, I think we've all talked about, like, you know, make sure that you're still enjoying what you're doing, because otherwise you can quickly learn to hate it.
And Trail, you are an amazing cosplayer. Thank you. You're welcome. So that is part of why I want you to be on the panel, just because you're passionate and you talk about a lot of things openly, and you're very, very good about, you know, like, educating people when a lot of us run out of that energy.
Yeah, and I also think, and I know I was not one of the people who asked you the question. I thought it many times, but I also kind of thought of myself as, I also think I have a different definition of success than maybe the other panelists. I've never gone into this with any thought of making money, with anything. For me, literally, it was about getting my exposure as a trans person out there and teaching people things. And as you just said, like, really, you just point out the reason that I do stream and I do all these things is I just wanted to put myself out there and make friends and whatnot. And to me, my success is the fact that I can walk around this con and I don't go 10 minutes without running into someone who I know or knows me, and I get to have a fun conversation with that. And that, to me, that's success. I have not made a cent off of my streaming. I have not made a penny off it. But I have friends, I have people I've met, I have people who know me, and the networking has been just amazing. As an extroverted person, to me, that is the best thing in the world. And that's my success.
Cool. All right, since a lot of us on the panel are people of color, aka POC, how many brown folks in the room have heard this phrase, you have to be twice as good to get half as far? And lately it's like 4 times as good to get a quarter as far in this country. And I just put that up there because when I initially did this panel and conceived of it, it was an all POC panel. The other times I've given it, it was not. But I still wanted to bring up the point, because when we as people of color try to do things, a lot of times we have to really justify what it is we're doing. We have to go, well, why do you need to do this Kickstarter? Why do you need to have this GoFundMe? And statistically, a lot of us, our endeavors don't make it. They don't get funded, but yet some dude who wants to learn how to make potato salad can make enough to start a company. And, you know, and end the wall, and when people are dying from not enough insulin, but that's another panel. But we have to struggle a lot more to get a half as much done. And I don't know if Misty or Brian, either of you had thoughts on that saying, or if you just found that to be true as well. Let's confirm our biases.
I think it's. I think that it certainly can be true. I think it is mostly true. I think there's exceptions to every rule, but by and large, yes. And I think that it can go It's one of few things that is unique to like a person of color that can go to anyone. Like I feel like if you are not a stereotypical, and I'm thinking Twitch specifically, right? Because I'm talking from where I know. If you're not in that specific range, right? We know you look at the carousel on Twitch. It's a white bearded dude, or it's a girl who looks absolutely stunning. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, right? But or it's some dude with colored hair, right? We've got that. That's it. That's the meta. And if you don't fit that meta, then people don't want to watch you. Like, days I'll not wear makeup. People come in and be like, if you looked better, people would watch you. I'm like, what?
Let's
What?
not forget the
It
5
happens
out of
a
10.
lot.
Oh, yeah, the actual, if you weren't such a 5 out of 10. People, I know, and I was like,
Direct quote.
like, I can be a 4. Hold on, I'll be right back. But it's like, let me put my hair up on my head and be like, I'm just gonna scrub it up. But there are expectations, societal expectations that people put on you that can make it more of a struggle to be successful. Things like, anytime I don't wear makeup, like, I hear it. And even conversely, when I do wear makeup, people on the flip side, you look so great today. I'm like, oh my God, what I looked like yesterday. Oh my gosh, right? And I know it's meant as a compliment, but it's also like,
Or
it's
you're doing it
difficult.
just to look good, just to get people in, because that's all
right,
you are.
Well, my boobs, they bring in all the boys to the yard. That's why, right? That's why anyone watches my stream. See, like, I just brought in more boys. To the
It's a
yard.
Bob stream.
Yep.
That was impressive,
It
Miss
was. You're welcome. Come on.
Brian. This is like Star Trek.
I think as a person of color, or just anyone who is not fitting like the standard expectation mold, and not necessarily even on Twitch, but any endeavor where you are your face, your identity out there. You're not necessarily hiding behind, and not hiding, but just using like an anonymous handle, but you've decided to be visible and vocal. I feel like, yeah, there are expectations that, you're, like, what are you doing here? And maybe you're not as good, and maybe I shouldn't listen to you versus listening to somebody else who's doing exactly the same thing you are. They just don't look like you. They look like the expected default. So I think anything, but especially when you are out there as your unique and real identity, you're going to encounter that.
Trail, did you have anything or no?
I mean, it's a little bit, I would say harder. It's different from my side in that I stream very openly as a trans person. Like, my thing says gender fluid right on it. But when you first come in and look at me, to the passing world, if I'm not in makeup, I pass as a cis, straight, white male. Even though only one of those 4 is true, it's what I appear to be. And I can't really speak to it because I really don't have that same problem. I get it after the fact when they realize things, and I get the assholes, but...
Oh, what about that person who came in? Remember that person who came in and was like, oh, it's a nice Jewish boy,
Oh,
or
yeah,
something like that.
because I had, you can tell my hair's long now, but it was shorter and frizzier back then. And someone came in, it was like what a fine example of a fine Jewish lad. I'm like, oh my God, you are so wrong.
Right.
And that's literally, as I'm sitting there working on a breastplate with giant boobs, like, the look I gave the camera was said it all at that point.
Wow. Just a couple examples I had for my notes. So who remembers safety pin box? Raise your hand. I ain't gonna bite you. Thank you.
I'm not lying.
Wow, Misty's up here just exposing me. But safety pin box was a service put together by Leslie Mack, and I can't remember the other woman's name. I feel bad. But they were like, okay, white allies, you talk a good game about I want to do better. I want to help my friends and family do better in terms of race, etc. Like, literally, here's a subscription box. And they got such flack for this that eventually, like, this is not worth it because people talk a good game, but then they don't want to put up and shut up with their money. And, like, the reaction to Black Panther of it's a black movie and it's not going to do any money. I'm sorry, how much did Black Panther make? That wasn't a rhetorical question. That was not a rhetorical question. For those that came late, this is not call and response from the audience. And just in general, I'm going to be that person. All the mediocre white dudes that get far, far above their actual ability. Because a lot of times, those of us have seen promotions and things like that in our workplace or in the streaming world. We just see the same bearded white dudes with a plaid shirt and rainbow hair. And I'm like, how did you get here? But that's the expectation in the status quo. So I want to talk about, just kind of things that we have where we put in the work and we grind. How many of us have, for whatever your value is of making it, you put in the work for months and years, and then if you have like a speaking gig, something like that, people think that you suddenly made it. So anyone on the panel want to start?
So the day after I got partnered on Twitch, someone asked me if I hacked them. Did you hack them to get your partner button? Yes. I hacked them and made them sign a contract.
That's impressive.
It was.
It's you.
But all the time. People accuse you of, I had something, I don't even remember what it was, but I got something, and the response was, well, she knows people, or she got that because of X, and why couldn't I have earned it? And that happens a lot.
Yeah.
But people see that. They don't see, you pushing this boulder up a hill for, a year. And then you get it to the top, and they're like, ugh, who put that up there?
You. And
That's kind of perfect.
And I kind of had the weird different path. From any stretch of the kind of imagination, I came into a large, I'm one of those people who on my second stream had double digits, which there are people who struggle to doing that on day, 50, 60. But the thing they don't see is the year and a half I spent in other people's channels, knowing people and meeting people. I was a sub to you for a year before I even streamed my first time. And the reason I got those double digits is because people from there knew me. So people just saw me turn on my stream and suddenly have an audience. It's not. I built an audience up over a year of networking. Mm-hmm. When it wasn't really 10, I was just making friends. But as I explained earlier, that's my success.
Brian?
I definitely get that, especially at the more media events, and they're usually going to be media events for a venue opening up in DC or an event happening, and you'll meet people there who now work for, they work for actual magazines or internet sites, and you meet them and you get the imposter syndrome. You feel really intimidated as people are at a table discussing J school, which I then had to go home and look up to understood that they meant journalism school, and I'm like, no, none of that. But then they're like, oh, who are you and what do you do? And I'm like, well, I run a local blog. And they're like, well, that's great. And I'm like, yeah, I've been writing for about 15, 20 years. And they're like, oh. And there's just this, oh, you just showed up, like who the heck are you? Who invited you? And I'm like, we actually worked for this and kind of belong here. But thanks.
Did you finger guns while you're out of that?
I did not finger guns my way out of that. I think I just got another drink.
That's legit. That's the other option for finger gunning out. For me, kind of like Misty, when I got partnered, I had people DMing me going, how'd you do it? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I applied several times. I had literally just got turned down a few months before I wound up getting partnered after TwitchCon last year. And it just seems like there's this inability to accept that you had to work to get there. And it's like, a lot of people just think that you, in terms of streaming, that you turn on your computer, you turn on your console, whatever you do, and suddenly thousands of people show up. I have yet to ever have that happen except for the 2 times I got a front page slot. And other things, because for me, I run a nonprofit about diversity, and a lot of times I will get people who don't know what I do. A place like this is validating because a lot of people know what I do and what I'm about. But actually, the year that I met Misty at PAX East, I had someone come up to me and talk to me like, oh, aren't you cute? Your little diversity thing. And I was like, I've been doing this for 3 years. We have a nonprofit. And you could just see that light bulb in her eyes. Because she just thought she was talking to probably some college kid that didn't know anything and just had a table. And at this point, one, I worry about being arrogant, but 2, it's I've now put in almost 5 years of my life into this. This isn't just something I'm doing for fun or a side gig. This is my everyday life. The other part of this, I wanted to bring up social media because social media can be a curse and a blessing, because at least for me, I couldn't do this if I didn't have a Twitter presence, but then I have a Twitter presence. And I'm just like, why? Why? Twitter is the devil. Why must I endure it? Oh, yeah, for networking and friends making. So for social media, how do you all factor that into what you've done, and kind of, do you think you would be quote unquote successful if it were not for social media?
No.
No.
Okay, that was a fast question. that was a very quick question. Trail.
I wouldn't. I think that, oh, trails.
I was going to say, I'd say the one. I think my social media stuff came because of what I am. Again, I'm the cosplayer, I'm the creative person. My social network following came after, like Twitch blew up my social media more than I used my social media to get my Twitch going. Like, I'm the weird one in that. Like, I had, I think, like 50 Instagram followers by then, and it's when I started Twitch streaming that, as I said, I made friends and I made things. It grew from that, and I think now it brings in people because I tell them when I switch up. But I think my Twitch came before my social media.
Yeah, and Misty, you were gonna say something.
I was. I went to school for ASL for a very long time, so I'm trying very hard not to be distracted by the wonderful translator over here. And so hello. But the social media it's integral because a lot of times people want to connect with you on what I do from on both sides, right? When I make things, people need to see them, and if they don't see what you make, they don't want what you make, right? Like, hey, I make a bag. Okay, great, good for you, right? But like, here's this picture of this awesome Doctor Who bag. Ooh, like it's different. It definitely makes people more interested in your product from that point of view, if you can make it a fun, not just like here's some pictures of all my stuff, but it has to be fun as well. And that goes the same for like a Twitch, like my Twitch side. I had a personal Twitter account, but that's not the like staying on brand, right? So I started a business one for Twitch, and it's the only place I post now. It's still my personal Twitter account because it's who I am. But if I only post go live tweets, that's useless. No one cares about that. But I try to, for my channel and my brand, I cultivate a community and a family, and being open about who I am and about what's going on to a certain level, because I do have children and a family, is important. And I have a big follow back list, right? Like if I notice someone who has liked posts, I'm like, oh wait, I don't follow them, and I try to do it because I'm genuinely invested in other people. And there's so many different ways you can use social media. It doesn't have to be like that, but it's a two-way, for me, social media is a two-way conversation, and it has to be, and it can't just be, hey, I'm going live, come watch me.
And I think that's also a big part of it too, is especially like for me as a smaller one, I do get a little stress from it. I mean, I enjoy getting all the likes and whatnot, but then I also feel obligated to respond to every comment. And like, I know I am not obligated to do it.
Oh, I'm still there.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, thankfully I enjoy doing it, but you get that feeling that it's like, oh, these are my friends. I need to respond to every single one of these. And the social media is a big step of it, but I think it also helps because it makes you more personable, and that's what you're trying to do.
I had something go viral a couple weeks ago. It had like 3,000 or 4,000 people. And like I had so many comments, and I'm just like, I can't. Like I had to declare bankruptcy. That's one of the first. Like I can't. Well, but I mean, luckily most of them were just like personally attacked, which it was. Sorry, if you're a crafter, but.
So we've talked about some of this on the slide, but I want to delve into the very dark side of it when you are perceived as a success. And so what you are comfortable sharing in terms of a bad interaction, a bad response to your success, and how it affected you. Because a lot of people don't think about that side of it. They think they can say and do whatever they want to if they follow you on social media, or if they see you prospering, for lack of a better word, because they don't think of you as a person, but a persona. They see you as this malleable thing on the internet, and maybe it changes if they get to meet you, maybe it doesn't, but for a lot of people, there is no filter. And I talked about the other day, and a friend of ours talked about it, of this kind of people forget that you are not actually best buddies, even if you follow each other on Twitter. And I'm not talking about the people I've gotten to know through social media, because Brian and I have been friends since LiveJournal days. RIP LiveJournal.
Oh, it's still there.
It is.
We're not. We're
Yeah.
not.
Dead yet.
But we're not using it now.
I went down that rabbit hole like weeks ago.
You know, and I met Misty.
10 years ago and go,
Ooh.
don't look at my live journal from 10 years ago.
You know, and I met Misty in person first, and then I came to her stream and everything else, and I met Trail through Misty. So there's occasionally the power of good in social media, occasionally. But I want to talk about the negative effects of quote-unquote success, and whatever a story you're comfortable sharing that we haven't already done, and how that affected you, and how that can kind of push you into, is this worth it? And if no one feels comfortable, that is totally fine.
This one's not really like any kind of phobia or like, I guess it kind of is misogynistic. Anyway, the other day on Twitch, there was literally, well, it's been happening a lot lately, full-on porn in the wow. That's
We lost the feed.
Oh no,
What did you wiggled something.
I wiggled something.
It looks like it's coming back. Anyway, there was full-on porn. That's what knocked it off. In the just chatting category,
We killed it.
it was terrible, and
Can
it
someone
was
get tech ops, please?
mesmerizing. From
Oh.
there you go.
Huh?
Hello. And what's going on?
It's Fenner's.
Hey.
And so I had posted something about it because it's the new view botting meta. It has nothing to do with sex. It has to do with the fact that sex sells. So like these streams will get like thousands of people watching them, and then they'll host people and raid people and dump those viewers into those channels. So they're real viewers instead of bot viewers. Well, they're still bot, but instead of like fake bot viewers. So it's harder to find. And I posted about this, and somebody came back at me like, yeah, it's gross that girls are doing that. I'm like, no.
Porn isn't girl.
While Twitch is not the correct medium for it, y'all can do whatever you want. As long as it's consensual, get paid for it. I don't give a crap, right? And this person goes off about how much of a terrible person I am because I am super, super into like degrading women and this and that. And I'm like, what, huh? And I'll get comments back like, no. And I try to explain because I sometimes am too nice, but people will attack you and assume and negate your opinion because of where you are and what you've done.
It hates us.
It does hate us.
All right, keep talking. I'll fix it. Or someone go next. I'll fix it. We broke it. Good job, mate.
Just say porn again.
Don't say porn again.
I mean,
We are being recorded, so say it as much as you want.
I could speak to it in a slightly different manner. Again, a lot of my stuff as a trans thing is I will fully admit that I have. It's rare, and normally I see it tangentially. They don't come at me with it, but I hear it said elsewhere and whatnot, where it's this person is only successful because that, like, attributing my trans as actually as a path to my success rather than beating me down for it, because like it makes me different and whatnot. They never come at me with it though. It's always posted elsewhere. It's like, oh, this person.
Right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, as I said, I can't face it the same way because people haven't come at me about it. Again, maybe it's because I'm a smaller person in the big screen, but I tend not to get that.
I mean, I don't even count that anymore at this point, right? Like, I've had people come at me like about like there's no reason she is a girl, she's wearing a low-cut shirt, she's doing this. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it's not the kind of thing that you say like it's something that you get used to. Like you don't get used to it, but you kind of accept you accept the likelihood that it's going to happen. There are people who they're going to discount you. They're going to say horrible things, and like you can if it's during a Twitch live stream, you can. If it's during a Twitch live stream,
Hello?
you can, yeah, hello.
Who's there?
Unless you're selling Girl Scout cookies.
Oh, Girl Scout cookies.
Okay. Welcome.
Welcome back, Ben.
That's all right.
It's okay.
HDMI? No.
keep talking.
No, all right. But yeah, it's the kind of thing, and if it's something about live streaming or it's on your social media account, wow, we need tech support. Then you really have to decide how you address it, whether you, whether you address it in the moment, whether you ignore it, whether you block them, ban them, etc. That's just something that sadly is going to happen. Oh,
Hi, we broke it.
hi, we broke it.
Go ahead. It apparently is very sensitive. But keep talking, Brian. We'll fix it eventually.
We'll get there.
I think I'm done.
Okay, well, while we try to fix this, it should let you just escape. I have a mouse. It's stuck. Okay, so the not so good side, I mean, I unfortunately have a lot of stories I could tell while we try to fix our AV. But the most current one going on, and actually no, that's not, I think, because of success. There's been a few times where I've wanted to quit streaming. And a lot of times it's been because I've had people come in the stream, and it's throwaway accounts. These people aren't brave enough to put their name behind whatever. Where I've gotten called a man, I've gotten called an ugly man, I've been asked what's between my legs in various and insulting ways. The latest one was, I can't tell if you have a sausage or a taco. Micro HDMI.
I had someone literally threaten my life in a
Yes.
stream. In explicit detail. Do you remember that day? They came in and told me about literally gutting me and feeding me my own entrails, and I was like, "That's delightful." But it goes to, but having
You just
a
learned
thick-
something about Misty.
Right? Apparently they're delicious. So having a thicker skin, and it's such a throwaway statement too. Like, have a thicker skin. There is a certain amount of crap that comes with it, and it's unavoidable. And I think the only thing you can do is, as your success builds, find ways to protect yourself and to keep yourself sane, safe, and
Well, that's
happy.
my idea.
Because that's all you can do, right? Like, you can't tell the world, like, please be nice to me, right? Because that's a given, but people aren't anyway, so.
And that's one of the things I'll counter when you say people want to say,
Just doesn't
just
like
get a
the
thicker
word.
skin and
there
go
it
with
is.
it. One of the things people told me early on when I was getting ready to start streaming was, be prepared for the trolls, be prepared for things, but you're gonna have to put up with some low-level stuff because you can't just go around banning people and like crazy. That's bullshit. If I even think you're thinking of saying something nasty to me or people I know, I just ban the crap out of them immediately. No talking, just gone. I know other people don't subscribe to that, but I don't believe in this. You can't have success if you don't. You don't have to coddle everybody. Protect yourself. If you can't stream, if you can't feel comfortable doing it, you'll never succeed anyway. So even if it does make you fail, you're just failing for a different way, but at least you gave it a shot.
Definitely. Sorry about all the AV interruptions. Apparently, it's like I breathed too hard, and my laptop was like, "No, I'm done. I quit." I got a little story in while we were trying to fix AV. So we've got about 27 minutes, and we've already talked about the myth of overnight success. So we're going to go to Q&A. Don't know if we have a mic around, because I think that's usually the Q&A mic.
Why don't I just pass this one up there and I can share with Misty?
Sure. Okay, so if you all could be kind and line up on this wall if you have questions.
And this is where we'll point out the thing again. Remember, questions. We don't need the whole backstory.
Right. You can please
We'll ask you for
provide-
backstory.
We need more information. We'll ask for it.
And I will ask you to go find a question.
In those exact words.
Do we have to introduce ourselves or anything?
No.
Not if you don't
Okay,
want to.
cool.
Say your name, hi.
Okay. Hi, my name is Guinan, and I have a question in regards to once you come to a specific clout, how do you manage yourself differently versus starting out versus when you have a niche audience and you have to establish yourself as like transparent or be able to like communicate with your audience and things like that? And secondly, how is it that when it comes to communicating with your audience, do you get more feedback from other people of color, or is it mostly just like a mixed salad of people from other different kinds of backgrounds with feedback?
I like how we all just looked at each other. Well, don't go anywhere. We haven't
gonna say,
answered
no,
your
No,
question.
yeah, don't. You don't have to leave.
Here, I'll
Just
start
don't
with
block
first
the
point.
camera.
And it's and this is my personal belief thing, is as you grow and as you say, you get more clout, and as you grow, you don't change. The people who are following you and are coming to you for who you are. If you start changing just because now you've gone from 10 people to 100, then the people who were there from the beginning are getting a new thing. They came to you to be who you are, so just keep being who you are.
I find that the only things that have changed for me are administrative, right? Like, I can't do all the things anymore, right? At TwitchCon, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. I have a manager who literally goes to events with me and is like, you have a thing in like 10 minutes, you have to go. Seriously, it'll be like, no, gotta go. And because I won't remember, I'll just stop and talk to people, and it's because that's just it's just who I am in general. It has nothing to do with Twitch, but I agree with what Trail said 100%. You stay the same. You can grow because we're humans and we do that, right? And evolve. But at the core, I don't change a whole lot except for quality of like streaming equipment. I want to have a better sound system. I want to have better cameras. I want to have better this equipment. But there are things that grow. Like now I go to more conventions and I have to work with sponsors and people I affiliate with and partner with, and it's administrative. That's the part I see that grows.
For me, it's this person you're seeing now, the person you see on stream, et cetera, that's me. I don't believe in putting on a persona. This is the same salty asshole that you're going to get in any other place. I'm
True.
serious.
It's very true.
Brian can attest, as he's known me the longest on this panel. For me, what changed is maintaining boundaries. Because a lot of people, because they have that access to you through Twitter, other social areas, they feel a kinship that does not exist. And so for me, it's learning the boundaries, what's healthy, what's appropriate for me, what I need, and when to enforce that boundary. And as for talking to other people of color, it all depends on what's going on. I got my cadre of black folks, like in my Discord, there's a channel that is only for the black people I know, called Wakanda. And you cannot enter the kingdom if you are not black. Now, I'm not even talking about person of color. If you ain't black, you can't get in. One other person has admin rights in my Discord that is not black, and I'm like, if I see you in that channel, we're going to have words. So it depends on the topic.
Yay, I'm in Wakanda.
Yes, you are Wakandan. And for other things, it really depends, because if it's something general about streaming or something like that, I will ask all my friends who stream. If it's about public speaking, other folks that do so, I will reach out to them. And the other thing for me is I try not to ask advice publicly unless it's something very general, because, and I'm sure there's people in the stream that have done this, well-meaning or not, I can just talk about my day, do whatever, and I will get all the unsolicited advice I've never asked for. Then when I ask a question, I get every response except for what I actually asked. So in general, I try to either email people, text them, because if we have a good enough relationship, like I can text Misty about something, or Trail or Brian, that is more valuable to me than the general public, because at a certain follower threshold, at least on Twitter, you just can't manage it anymore. I just go to people's things, I read them directly, and then I move on. But don't change who you are, because like Trail said, if you change, the people that were with you from day one, they will not be there on day 100. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Hello? There we go.
No, it doesn't sound like it's on, but
No, it doesn't.
It is.
It's on.
All right. Okay.
It's like a magic mic.
Wait, this is daytime.
I'm
Alexa,
here all week, tipping
play
waiters
Pony.
and waitresses.
And so you can subscribe to Misty on Twitch for more great content.
If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe for free.
Hi, my name is Ron. I have a question for you guys. What with social media, I've been having this weird back and forth with it, with like at least Facebook with all the fucking leaks and all the other crap
Yes.
that's leaked out. And I want to get out there. Like I'm a chiptune artist, and I would try to like I
So
want to put my
where's your question?
right. So my my question is, how do you keep your personal life and your info away, but still keep your professional stuff out there? Like, where's the balance in that? So that way someone doesn't like come up and dox you or come to your house and like punch you in the face.
Yeah.
Or worse, right?
So for your personal information, Crash Override has a great walkthrough. It will literally walk you through and help you scrub your information.
Okay.
Keep separate personal and business emails. Like my business email is out there on the internet, and if someone emails me and they're not okay, then I can create a filter and send them on their merry way. And if you do get someone who's trying to harass you, tries to dox you, I know it sounds terrible, but let your local police department know. Just, hey, if you get a call about my address at blah, 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 and there's a hostage, that's a lie. This is someone who's harassing me. Take documentation, things like that. But as far as you're comfortable, if you have a stage name, a preferred name online, use that everywhere. If you stream or something, or if you're at your shows, have people call you that name, register under that name, use your real name, pick up your badge or whatever. And then, like, if you do things like stream, don't let people use your real name. Keep it as separate as you can. And then at a certain point, if you get interviews, what have you, your real name will get out there. But just maintain that boundary. Don't be weird and be like, you can only call me this name. And just be very firm in that boundary. And unfortunately, if it does happen, because as you get more well-known, or if you buy property, people can't look up your address, I found out. Take precautions. Be very careful with who you let in, because I'm going to repeat what I said on another panel, all skin folk and kinfolk. Being very careful who you let in and who you trust. And, and think about that as your work grows, as your repertoire grows, and as you work with other people. And don't be afraid to let toxic people go.
Right.
The one follow-up I give to that, to add on to that, all that information is public too, but a lot of people, when they start going on social media and streaming and whatnot, they don't realize how much of their secondary information that they give that make you easy to find.
Yeah.
Things like, literally, like the weather, local sports teams. Like, I've had situations where people, like, you just say things like, oh, I live near a blank. Well, there may be like 20 of those in the United States or something. The next day you say, oh, but the weather is snowing. People can start narrowing things down, and people who want to dox you will follow that information.
Yeah.
Like, the casual person will not.
Right.
Someone who wants will start finally writing down this information, and they'll find you.
Sure.
One of my mods basically went through one of my streams one day and was like, I can tell you your address. Without not just without looking for your stuff. And I don't live there anymore, so I can say this. My kids came in one day wearing like this elementary school shirt. I didn't think about it, right? But now everyone knows where my kids go to school. I'm like, oh, it's only a 2-minute walk to school. So now everyone knows that I live within 2 minutes of this elementary school. And I'm like, oh, I live next door to a mental health care facility. Boom, she lives at this house right here. Things I did not even think about, they just put them together. So you got to be careful with stuff like that. Get a P.O. box. Anything that you can disassociate with your stuff, do it. And I second the police department. I had to call the police department on air one day. I paused it, I'd be right back. Everyone was listening. But I had to because someone created a username called I know where you live _docs. It happens. So just, protect yourself. Keep yourself safe as well as you can, and
Think about it.
be proactive. Yeah.
Be actively thinking about it is the best first step.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Hi. So you guys said being networking and being on social media helped your success. But what if you're an introvert? It doesn't come right. What if it doesn't come naturally to you?
No one believes I'm an introvert.
It doesn't come naturally to a lot of people.
It will not.
Until I Need Diverse Games took off, I was the person who had to reset my password every year for the one convention I went to on my Twitter account. No lie.
Oh, I constantly watch other people on social media, and I'm like, why are they so funny? I'm not funny at all.
Right.
It's definitely, and
Microphone.
some of it is imposter syndrome, where you're like, well, I'm not, I'm not as funny as them, I'm not as good as them, I'm not as this, as that. But also, figuring out who you are and what your brand is helps you step past that. Like, am I someone who does want to make a closer connection with the audience? Maybe I'll share a little bit more about, like, I'll ask people questions. There's ways to get around the conversational stuff that's not comfortable for introverts by putting the burden of conversation on the other person. That's what I found.
And you think about, I mean, just like anything, it's something that you're slowly crafting. So you start with what you feel comfortable with, and even if you don't think of the person using social media as yourself, think of it as your persona or as your brand, and that also kind of helps you craft what that voice is going to be. And you eventually get more comfortable with it. But I think initially, a lot of folks post, oh, here's a link to this. Here's I'm going online, I'm doing this, and that's all their initial tweets are until they get more comfort just interacting. And it's difficult because you're interacting with nobody and yet everybody at the exact same time on social media. So it's something that you get more comfortable with.
Also memes.
Oh, lots and lots of
gifs.
memes. Lots and lots of memes.
Joking. Like, it sounds funny, but I
Microphone.
find memes and gifs that are funny to me and that make me laugh, and I share.
I literally have a friend who, if you went to our conversation, it's nothing but memes. We have entire conversations in memes because he's a very introverted person.
Right.
And so I know that I can communicate that way. And the other thing I say too is, as I say, just keep it up. No one here would believe it. 15 years ago, I was a horrible introvert. I would never talk to a stranger. I would never make eye contact with people. And now I am like the social butterfly flitting around saying hi to everybody. I'm the asshole in the elevator who talks to everybody. Yeah, so you can hate me, but that's me.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. We have been saved. RN Jesus is here.
You got it. Most people just think I'm Rave Jesus. He was here last year. It was a good time. Also, I feel that meme conversation thing. That's me and my best friend. I feel kind of weird because my question isn't as deep or relevant, but I like this one.
It's still a good question.
Cool. What is your favorite restaurant that you've only been to once?
I'll answer it. St. Elmo Steakhouse in Indy when I went for Gen Con.
Solid.
Freaking amazing food. I also ate next to Will Wheaton, which was kind of cool. Will Wheaton?
Will Wheaton.
There's a place out in Virginia called DC Prime. It's a steakhouse. It was super good, but I'd only gone once because I moved right after I found it, but it was really good. Route 7.
This hole-in-the-wall Filipino place I found during PAX West this year. It had the best lumpia I've ever had in my life.
This is the deep part question for Brian.
I'm a food person, so
This is a lot of stuff to go through, yeah. What do you think?
It's like in a strip mall. It's in, we were in San Francisco. It's a dim sum restaurant, Koi Palace. And from the outside, there's like an Outback Steakhouse and a CVS and everything. And then inside, it's like 15 event rooms just all of a sudden there. And it's got the trays and the clatter and everything. But everything was delicious. So yeah, I would say like my first proper dim sum experience, thank goodness it was in the West Coast. That was it.
All right, solid. Quick follow-up question. What is lupia?
It's kind of,
Delicious heaven.
God, I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it. Think of egg rolls, but small and fried, and if you order 20, you will probably fight your friends over them. If you go to Chicago, there's a place called Isla Filipina. That is one of the few authentic places I can think of. Here, I have no idea. But just look up lumpia, Lumpia.
Okay.
And you get a negative modifier for irrelevant question. But it's a good question, but it was not quite relevant to the panel.
I still think you rolled a natural 20.
I will remember that Sunday.
My rolls have been
Tanya will remember that.
What's it gonna do? Am I gonna fail harder?
Just don't roll a 1 and it'll be okay. So my question is, I don't know if you covered it earlier, but what do you do to deal with imposter syndrome?
You don't.
I'll
She
say
won't.
this.
Yeah, you don't, because she won't let us.
Okay, now you got to really answer the question.
Wow.
See, you should have been quiet and ate your food.
It's true. I should have. No, it's so cliche to say push through, but you tend to you don't, generally, I remind myself like that, what I'm doing, people engage with, even on the smallest, tiniest scale, people like it. And, even if they don't like it, I enjoy doing it. So even sometimes if I'm just doing it for me, that's okay. And yeah, there will always be people out there that I look at and they're on like this level up here. And maybe I aspire to that, maybe not, because I think we also talked about earlier, that next level is a lot of work. And you have to be sure that that's what you want to put in. But, I'll say unless it is your absolute job and you're getting paid well for it, if you don't like it, then that's the main thing. If you enjoy it, then keep going.
For me, it's always, and I get this a lot because I get to see a lot of amazing cosplayers, and I have imposter syndrome all the time when people start coming at me and telling me, oh, your armor's great or your things are great, and I just I can name like 20 people who've done this better than me. But like the way I always get around that, and this is my personal defense mechanism against it, is I find anytime I find myself thinking that, I then immediately go to something completely off topic that I really like about myself, that something good that happened. So you go to that, and I go, okay, well maybe Kamui cosplay is better at stuff than I am, but you know what? I have my 2 cats and I really love them. So it's stupid stuff like that.
Okay.
I think
That's adorable.
Don't do the thing that you're judging yourself on. So if it's streaming, don't go oh well that person's streaming so much better than me. Think about something in your life that you find really great too, because I bet you there are people out there who are really jealous of that and have imposter syndrome about them on it. It's when you think about what you do really good, that's not that thing you're judging yourself on. It helps you forget that you're judging yourself on that thing.
So kind of like when I'm trying to make video games, because
All right. Well, actually, there are 3 people behind you. And we have 10 minutes.
Okay, sorry.
You want after the pit, we can.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll be around for a
we'll be
little
here.
bit.
Okay. Yeah.
But I was actually going to answer it, and then I'm stealing an answer from a friend of ours who makes a brag book, both either physical or digital. And when he's having those moments of self-doubt, he goes back and looks at the things he's accomplished. And I've started to do that, where it's like 2018, a lot of people were doing year in review tweets, and I was beating myself up because I'd not done a lot of games writing in terms of journalism, and that's something I used to like doing. Key being used to because reasons. But I thought about it. I'm like, yeah, I didn't write a lot, but I've done a lot of really cool things this year. I've gone to these conferences, I've done whatever, and there's so many things where it's like, while I didn't get the writing done that I wanted to, there's other things that I know that I've accomplished, because imposter syndrome can lead to a very deep hole, and or talk to other people and get your friends that are not going to lie to you or bullshit you, and say, hey, I'm feeling a way about what I've done or not done. Can we chat, or can you remind me that I'm not a terrible person? Which isn't weakness; it's asking for affirmation. Some days you just need that.
Okay.
Have that real friend, though.
That was the entirety of my answer.
I stole
Stole the thunder.
Wow.
It makes sense.
yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
For creative works that have a long spin-up time, like game development or, say, writing a novel, how do you sell yourself when there's not an obvious, daily or regular content that you can share with that?
Well,
Like
it depends
crafters?
on, so let's say game development, right? Start your, I don't know, if it was me, start a Twitter account. Hey, this is what I'm working on, right? You're excited about what you're working on, right? Take that thought once every day and post it. I worked on this today for this game. I'm super excited, right? If you're excited, other people might be excited. Follow other game accounts, like other independent developers, developers that you look up to, developers that you want to be like, and just put it out there. Be proud of your work openly, and then when you have screenshots that you feel like you can share, do that, right? It might not take off really quickly, but you'll have it out there, and in a couple of years when you're successful and everything's coming up Millhouse, people will be like, look, he was so excited about this on day 4 of his journey.
People will go back.
They will.
They absolutely will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That enthusiasm, they'll see, wow, this person worked for not making it. They were there for 6 months doing this day in, day out until they even got their first follow. But people will go back and
Oh, yeah.
do those things.
Always save
And
your
that
first thing.
And that shows me, if I see someone who's been doing something for a year and they're still going, I have precious time. I'll invest myself more in someone who's shown that they're sticking with it than someone who just start like.
Yeah.
Do it even if you're talking to nobody. Talk.
Yeah, because you won't always be talking to no, and especially on Twitter, people like you may feel like you're talking to nobody, but you're talking to like future people, right? You can look at it like that as well. Like I saved my very first streams and put them on YouTube, and they are very painful. But at the same time, I'm super glad because it allowed me to see where I was at that journey as well. So look at it as not just for building your brand, but building yourself up too, right? So you can be like, wow, look at how far I've come, or that was a great idea. I forgot I was going to put that in this game, right?
All right, let's be quick. We have 5 minutes left.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is about failure. I wonder how you deal with failure when it happens and how you prepare for when you think you might fail and how that, might affect your ego.
My ego's in the toilet.
And I guess let me preface.
Have an ego to begin with.
Yeah, wait. Let me preface this by saying, I noticed that you guys are all self-employed, and I came here thinking it was going to be about professional, not, people who are employed by other people. So I guess in that context.
Brian has a day job.
Okay.
I have a day job. Yeah, I
Trail.
worked for a corporate, Fortune 50 company for 15 years, so I can talk about it from that level. But I think that it's just the parallels are surprising in terms of working like self-employment that I have found anyway. It's just a different boss to hate, and it's you, right?
Yeah. I can talk about this quickly. So I'm in the middle of some tabletop writing and a contract. And I have missed my deadline, and I've asked for an extension. They've been very gracious. But now that self-recrimination and that failure's there. So I cried about it, slept on it, and came back. It's like, well, I've got to get this done. They've been very gracious. They didn't have to give me a deadline. But failure is just part of the process. If I can take it and learn from it, and it doesn't defeat me, because it's one thing to go, I failed, I suck, I will never make anything good ever again, versus I failed, but let me look back and see why I failed and try to not do that again. Life and extenuating circumstances notwithstanding, things happen. Life happens to you and to us. Does anyone else have thoughts?
I have a saying that failure is the first step of, sucking at something is the first step of getting really awesome at it. And it goes the same for failure. Failure, I think, is kind of harsh, right? Failure is utter and complete. And I try to look at it like a mistake or a fail, right? Because you can learn from that. You can grow from that, and you can build on that. And as long as you're not failing the same way and you're failing upwards, I think it's okay.
Yeah. I do have the day job, so all of my creative stuff is like my side hustle, and not everything's going to work out. But you don't stop just because okay, that didn't hit. Maybe, and whether it's writing jokes on Twitter, whether it's taking photos, whether it's writing, you kind of look back and you kind of figure out, how can I improve from this? How can I build on this? And realize that, some things are just never going to hit with anybody. But you can't let that attach to you and keep you from moving forward.
From my things, sorry, do you want to?
Oh, no, I just want to get to the last question.
Okay, I've always had an expression as a builder. It's the difference between an expert and a beginner is the expert has more failures than the beginner has even tried. And I use that every time. It took me 8 attempts to do the shoulders just. Then my next set, did it on the first try. Exactly, fail. Failing is good. You learn from failures. That's how I deal with it.
Thank you.
Right, thank you. Yay, we got through our line queue.
Really quick, I just want to know how you guys deal with stamina and the drive to keep going. I know, Missy, you mentioned that you have kids, and you mentioned never sleeping, and
Neither of which are untrue.
Oh, okay. I just want to know how you guys each individually kind of manage that.
Mine's the easy answer. I only do it when I feel like it.
Lit.
It's a nice thing about being the casual person. I have no set times. As I said, I stream for me. So if I don't feel like doing it, I don't do it. If I don't feel like posting an Instagram thing, I don't do it. It's a choice I made, and I definitely probably have less followers and less things for it, but that's what makes me happy. Simple answer for me.
For me, even if it is part of what I do, either writing a blog post, doing something for my patrons, if I push myself over my stamina level, I'm not going to be any good to anybody. So accepting that some days it's okay to take a nap, it's okay to not produce, and that what I produce does not define me. Because some people drive themselves into an early grave, they overdo it because they feel they always have to produce content when you are someone where this is all you're doing. And I mean, we know folks who like stream constantly, like they never take days off, they never do anything for themselves. Then when they do get a day off, they sleep because they don't do anything else the rest of the time. So it's knowing what my power level is and being like, okay, not today, because I have called streams like, you know what, I'm tired, I don't feel like peopling, and whether that's virtual or not.
Yeah, no, yeah, self-care, knowing your own, and to echo Trail, if since I'm still at that like casual in terms of streaming and even everything else I do, if today's not that day, it's just not that day. I'm going to close myself in my room with a book and not worry about any of the things I have going on, provided that nobody's going to be like out looking for me or anything. But yeah,
For me, it depends on what's going on that day, right? Like I said this during another panel, I do a lot of fundraising for St. Jude. I don't let myself take those days off.
Okay.
Right? Because I feel as if I have a deep obligation to raise as much money as I possibly can for those kids. And what happens if someone comes in and drops $1,000 that day and I didn't stream? And one day I said that to my manager, who was like, take a day off. And that day someone came in and dropped $1,000 on my stream for St. Jude. And I'm like, So some of it is just a sense of obligation, right? And I try to, and not in a bad way, like, oh, I feel like I'm obliged to stream. But for me, people pay me, right? People are giving me their hard-earned cash because they believe in what I'm doing. And I try to use that to push through. If I'm like, if I'm on a really actually bad day, yeah, no, it's done, right? But if I'm just like, I don't feel like doing it, right? You have to look at the fact that there are people who want to watch you or want to experience what you're doing, and weigh it against, like, is my ennui like worth like their being upset? Not they're not gonna be crying, but like like changing their day's plans on them. Like some people, that's their plan. They're on noon, I'm gonna sit down and watch this channel, and I've changed that plan because if it's because I'm seriously in need of self-care, then yes. If it's because I feel like watching another episode of something on Netflix, then it's not worth it. So for me, it's about the drive behind it.
Yay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. All right, so we're officially a little over time, but everyone quickly say, who are you and where can folks find you if you want on the internet? Brian, start with you.
Again, I'm Brian. I am urban bohemian pretty much everywhere that's ever existed ever on the internet.
I'm Tanya, Cypher of Tier everywhere except for my Final Fantasy XIV account, because damn you Square for not letting me change my name for love of money. But yeah, Cypher of Tier everywhere, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, although RIP Tumblr and all the other stuff that we don't get to watch on anymore.
I'm Imperial Girl everywhere. 2 R's, GRRL, because I've just still not gotten over Tank Girl.
And I'm Trail Freshie, pretty much everywhere, Instagram, Twitch, Facebook. Pretty easy to find by that name.
All right, thank you. We'll be around for a couple minutes to take questions, but thank you so much.